3, 2, 1, action.
Good evening. Today is Wednesday, May 8th, and this is the Hendrick-Hudson Board of Education meeting. Sorry to keep you guys all waiting. We ran a little bit over an executive session. Before we get started, let's stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get into our agenda this evening, we first have our public hearing on the 2024-2025 budget. So if anybody from the public is here to speak on the budget hearing, now is the opportunity. We do have to wait a few minutes, make sure that nobody shows up or changes their mind. Carmen, is it okay with everyone? Okay, we're here to speak for the public hearing for the 2024-2025 budget. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda this evening? Motion. Second. Second. All in favor? Right. Okay, before we get into the guts of the agenda, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Trombley to handle our wonderful recognition.
Thank you, President Bernard. It's been a while since we've been together. I think our last board meeting was April 10th. I felt like I was doing something wrong when we didn't have a board meeting. So this is the best part of every single one of those board meetings. And just to connect with the previous agenda item, the budget that we're asking our taxpayers to and our citizens to adopt or to consider voting for this May allows programs such as that we're going to touch upon to exist, or similar programs, maybe not these specific, but we can get into that. So our student recognition portion of our agenda this evening has a STEAM theme. And I've worked very hard to say that all day without messing it up. But I'm gonna ask that Greg, we connect to Zoom. Right there, excellent, we're already on Zoom, because on Zoom we have a special guest, our Hendrick-Hudson High School science teacher, Dr. Christine Rogers, who one of her courses that Dr. Rogers, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So Dr. Rogers, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about our science research program and highlight some of the research of one of the fantastic students in that class, Rachel Keefe, who is in the audience here, who also happens to be our 2023-2024 valedictorian, not to put her on the spot. So Dr. Rogers, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I just wanted to tell you how wonderful the science research program is. Sorry, I cannot join you. I had surgery last week. We are preparing the students really for what they're going to be doing a lot in college, which is to be able to be autonomous and motivated, conduct their own research, read scientific papers and understand what they're doing, as well as being able to do literature review and research their background before they do a project. It's also coming up with project proposals, implementing a project that is scientifically guided with a scientist in the field, and be able to take the result that they have and write a full paper with them, including all the statistical analysis and the conclusions. That is a paper that you would be doing at the level of a graduate school, a master's degree. I mean, this is even beyond the bachelor's degree, in my opinion. And so we have here Rachel Keefe, which will talk a little bit about her project, I hope, right, Rachel? And she is, not surprisingly, a valedictorian, but at the same time, she really did for the past 3 years a fantastic project on global warming, looking at the levels of oxygenation in the waters. She worked with a mentor at San Diego, um, uh, UC San Diego, and was really involved in her project. She did all the work by herself. This is important to note. She did learn R, she did all the programming, and she's very humble about it, but I know how much work she has done, and it really shows. Um, she programmed, analyzed the data using mathematical equations, graphed data using the R programming, did a number of analyses on it, and um, she put together a very nice paper, which will be available for all to read once I have finished working on a 2024 publication. And then she competed at the Westchester Science and Engineering Fair, WESF, this past March, March 17, and was rewarded with the Tetong Young Environmentalist Award. So maybe I should give her the microphone so that she can present and tell you a little bit more about her project.
So Rachel, could you come up to the podium and tell us a little bit about your project or your research? I think it's fascinating. If you've ever been familiar with this program, just the title of the research itself will show you the complexity of it. So Rachel, we'll start off every good presentation with the title. What was the title of your research?
So my project was entitled Investigating Global Warming's Influence on Ocean Deoxygenation. So I did this research over 3 years, and as Dr. Rogers said, my mentor was Dr. Eric Morgan, and he works at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography within the University of California, San Diego. So I'll give you guys a quick summary of my project, and I'll start by saying why I chose this research. And I chose this research because climate change is an issue that is very important to me, and climate change is accelerating as our temperatures are rising, and as many might know, that 2023 was confirmed to be the hottest year on record so far. So as a result of global warming, there seemed to be a global long-term increase in carbon dioxide and a global long-term decrease in oxygen on Earth. So as our temperature rises, the ocean's temperature rises, and that leads to an increase in ocean deoxygenation because oxygen is less soluble in warmer ocean temperatures. So as our ocean is losing oxygen, this leads to the increase in oxygen minimum zones in oceans around the globe. And these are areas in our oceans that have a limited amount of dissolved oxygen, and these can reach a level that can become unsuitable for life. So today there are about 1,000 oxygen minimum zones around the globe. So for my research around this issue, I quantified the amount of oxygen lost by the ocean. I did this 2 ways in order to see what is the most accurate insight into global ocean deoxygenation. So the first way, I used ocean-atmosphere gas exchange methods, which I used atmospheric measurements of oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide. And this works because the amount of gas lost by the ocean is equal to the complementary change that we can observe and measure within the atmosphere. And then the second method was I looked at a data product of global interior oxygen measurements from Argo floats and ship sensors. And this is also machine learning, which is a subset of artificial intelligence. So it takes areas around the globe of oxygen measurements and then fills in areas that do not have where data gaps are using artificial intelligence. So after quantifying how much oxygen the ocean has lost using both my methods, I found that the ocean has lost a significant amount of oxygen as a result of rising temperatures, but I found that the machine learning artificial intelligence method that uses measurements directly from the ocean was the most accurate and the most reliable way to calculate ocean interior oxygen to date. So in the future, I plan to focus on global oxygen minimum zones regionally and see how they're expanding as a result of rising temperatures. And then to summarize my research, I think it's important to reduce our fossil fuel and carbon dioxide emissions in order to prevent our ocean as well as the entire Earth from losing its vital oxygen supply. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel, and thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you,
Ross.
Rachel. What you didn't say enough, Rachel, and is that you did all the programming by yourself. And that is really an amazing amount of work. Um, she just programmed the whole thing, and she determine uh, publicly available data, and looked at all the data that's publicly available, and used these methods in order to calculate and program calculations, showing the conclusion that she was able to tell you. And so this is really an amazing amount of work. Right now, the science research program has a very limited number of students. I hope we will get more in the future. We were hit very hard by the fact that students could not go into the labs during the COVID pandemic. And since this is a 3-year program, we're still kind of feeling a little bit of a lag due to that. But hopefully it will pick up soon. And I want to tell the students and the parents that are hearing us that this is a program that's available starting in the sophomore year, and in some special cases in the freshman year, for the students that are really motivated and that can work on their own and that can conduct a project on their own. I'm here to guide them, but they work with scientists because they can pick the project from the mathematics to informatics, computer science, environmental science, biology, medicine, physics, chemistry, earth science. It just goes over the entire spectrum of the sciences, even cognitive psychology and social sciences. So they have to work with scientists that know the topics very well. And I am here to help them uh, through the process. And it's a process that is as much a test of their ability to do science as it is a test of character, their ability to have grit, and to recover from mistakes and learn from their mistakes, and the ability also to learning how to work in the real world, work with real people on the workplace. And that is a really important skill to acquire before you get to college, in my opinion. So thank you very much for having us tonight. I really appreciate this. And I hope we'll be back with more wonderful students. Thank you, Rachel, for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers, both for your support of Rachel and of the program, and we hope you're feeling better.
Thank you.
Rachel, I'm going to ask you a question not to put you on the spot. Have you decided on any post-secondary plans?
I'm going to the University of Richmond.
And what is going to be your focus of study?
I'm studying mathematics and data science.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. Congratulations on your project. So science research is a program that our operating budget directly supports. There are some times that we have programs that our students participate in that our budget did not anticipate, or there's a problem to be solved to support that. So a similar such situation occurred a couple of months ago, and Benita brought to my attention some of our fantastic students who, outside on their own time and a non-school sponsored event, were doing some fantastic things. And Benita wanted to find a way to support them in their work. And the story will go someplace, I promise. And our job as administrators is to problem solve for our children, teachers. And Benita started the ball rolling, and we have a fantastic outcome to that problem that was presented. And I'm going to introduce our a VEX robotics team made up of Hendrick Hudson students. And while we sponsor a wide array, and there's a process for students to propose and continue to run extracurricular activities, These individuals do this on their own time, and as you're gonna see, they've been quite successful on it. So I want to call to the podium our state champion Vex robotics team that is made up of Hendrick Hudson students. We have Braxton Schultz, come on up to the podium, please. Max Parker, Brody Marcus, Nick Lowy, and Matthew Mason. I'd like to do this in a couple of different stages. I'd like to also call up Ms. Ashley Schultz to say a few words about the VEX team and their accomplishments. Give anybody on the team an opportunity to talk about what appealed to them. But then I also want to recognize some people who allowed this to happen afterwards. So Ms. Schultz, I'll turn it over to you. Welcome.
Sure. I actually don't have much to say today because Braxton is going to be the one to speak on behalf of the team. Braxton's my son. I have been just lucky enough to be his mother and open up my house to serve the team throughout the last year. And so I've watched the team grow throughout this journey, but Braxton's going to tell you a little bit more about it.
And Braxton is not a stranger to our podium, correct? We recognized Braxton earlier on in the year for some of his computer science accomplishments. So Braxton, it's good to have you back.
Good evening. I want to take a minute to say thank you to the board for this recognition and a special thanks to the local community, including many Henhood families and friends who followed and supported our team throughout this past year. We are especially grateful for the grant we received from the HHCEF and the sponsorship from Certainty and Buchanan that allowed us to go to Dallas, Texas last month to compete in the VEX Robotics World Championship. Since we aren't an actual club or organization that is formally affiliated with the Henhood, some of you may not know what this whole robotics thing is about. And while I don't have the time tonight to go fully into depth about it, what I will tell you on behalf of myself and my teammates is that this robotics journey has been something I don't think any of us will ever forget. The 5 of us started meeting regularly back in August and have committed many hours into our robotics season, which just ended a few weeks ago in April. During that time, we competed in multiple tournaments from Boston to Hershey, Pennsylvania, to Connecticut and all across South New York. And our hard work paid off when we became the South New York State champions and qualified for the World Championship in Dallas. The experiences we have gained through the last 7 or 8 months have taught us so many different things about teamwork, collaboration, the engineering process, computer programming, and more. And it has allowed us to build on the things we are already learning in our classes, whether in physics, math, or our PLTW Principles of Engineering class. So as this your season draws to a close, I want to again thank everyone who has shown support along the way. Thank you for the recognition we received tonight. And here's to hoping that one day, with the district's help, this little robotics organization we started outside of school is something that becomes available to all students across the entire Hendrick Hudson School District. Thank you.
Before I welcome up some of our fantastic partners who made this happen, gentlemen, what was the nature of the robot that you designed, and what was the purpose of the robot?
So,
And the competition, I guess I would say.
every year VEX Robotics comes out with a new game. This year's game, it's modeled similar to soccer, except instead of there being one ball on a field with 2 robots that are paired together against each other, there are around 60 balls, I think. They're not shaped like a regular ball, they're weirdly shaped, but the object of the game is to outscore your opponent by placing those balls into these nets on the opposite sides of the field. And so it's basically a race to see how you can get more balls into your net while also defending your opponent. And there's also points for hanging on a big hanging structure at the end of the game. And so we spent the last 7 to 8 months revising our robot design. We went through 4 iterations where we rebuilt the robot from complete scratch after our strategy changed throughout the season.
Thank you very much. Now, final question. Did the robot have a name?
Yes.
Can we share it here?
Yes. Our most recent robot was named Ian Hawk, after the character from the movie Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Thank you. I often use the word educational community. We live in a wonderful community that values education. We have wonderful organizations here that supported the VEX robotics team. We have the Henrik Hudson Community Education Foundation represented tonight by Ms. Beth Gruber and Ms. Michelle Piccolo Hill, and also, I'm sorry, I was thinking about who wasn't here. We have Antoinette Pio, who also wanted me to mention that she wanted to be here, but she had two of her sons had a baseball game, and one was said they were gonna hit a home run for her, so she couldn't miss that. So she's here in spirit. So thank you, Michelle and Beth, for being here. They gave a fantastic donation to cover costs of incidental costs of travel and participation. We also have partners from our community here from Certainty, represented here by tonight by, if they have their partners stand up. I apologize, I didn't prep on last names or even first names, so I apologize, but I want to make sure I get them right. So if I mispronounce them, please correct me. We have Troy Eustaris, project manager. Urisis, thank you, Troy. We have Ashike Namjikapur. Thank you very much. An engineer from Certainty, and then Santa Chosh Birama. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the support of our students. Is there anything that Henrik Hudson Community Education Foundation would like to say, or our partners from Certainty?
First of all, I'd like to congratulate the team, congratulate the parents, school board for supporting this effort. Moving forward, continue to work with this relationship with the programs that are established here. And the plant is open for a tour whenever you guys are available, for not just the students, but for the board and also for the parents and students as well. So make arrangements with our HR department through Greg and Tamika, and we can set that up.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Would you guys, gentlemen, would you mind if we have a picture of everybody? Okay.
You're welcome. Right. Squeeze in a little.
Yeah.
Almost. You guys have to squeeze in just a little bit.
Ian Hawk.
Say cheese. Be in law. Right.
Thank you, everybody.
That's Tony off. I knew it was somebody.
Always the best part, other than superintendent's update. I'll turn it back over to you.
Oh.
And everybody's free to stay or to use this pause in the action to take a stretch and have a good evening and study hard. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. All right, that takes us up to the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything to pull on the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull fiscal 534, the SUNY Clarksdale College.
Okay, so pause on that. Can anything else to pull from the consent agenda? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda less fiscal 5? Second? Second, all in favor? Okay, Tamika, what's your question on fiscal?
I guess I just want to let the administration, just because this is sort of a new memorandum that we have, right, starting.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
This is just a new memorandum that we have, and I just want to get clarification on how we arrived to it.
Sure. So this is a memorandum of agreement between the school district and, and Potsdam University to provide college level credit in a psychology course to students who are choosing to take it in the high school. We have similar agreements with Mercy College, Syracuse University, Westchester Community College, and I believe Marist, correct? This is a new course. It will be offered by the high school next year. Students will take this course, earn college credit, and have the opportunity to sit for the AP exam. We did have the course contract reviewed by council. They have agreed to sign off of it, and we're recommending to the board. that we approve it so we can enter into the agreement.
Just a quick question. It says on here that the parents are gonna pay for the testing, I guess.
Correct. When you pay for the credit, it's at a reduced fee. But you do receive a transcript from the university with the actual grade.
You know, that credit costs.
I believe it's $125 or $75 if there is a threshold for reduced fee.
Can I just, I want to understand I want to understand the concern, because we do this in many of our other courses, so just so you're aware, like we have an Italian, French, Spanish, we offer credits that parents have paid for. And then we have it also in other courses, Project Lead the Way, we're paying for credits. If they want to, you don't have to. And then we have credits aligned with, we have other things, we have tons of things, but the parents have always paid for the credits,
Okay.
but it's, you don't have to.
You can sign up for the class and not
If you
just
sign up for
college
college, you
credit.
don't have to pay for the college credits.
Okay.
But if there's an AP class attached to it, like an AP Lit or an AP Lang, usually you're getting Mercy credits, which you're paying for, as well as then paying for a test. So that every single AP exam that a student takes is $100 or so.
So I guess what do we do for the kids that might not be able to afford? I guess they just don't take the class, right?
No, their school, the College Board actually has,
Yeah,
Okay,
so we
there's
apply,
funding. Okay.
our school contractors will actually do all the paperwork and send it into College Board for our students.
Okay.
So they don't have to worry about missing the exam.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all the questions for fiscal 5.4. Okay, hold a motion to approve fiscal 5.4.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor? Great. Okay, that takes us up to our donations. We have a couple of great donations this evening. See which one.
I think we need to do the consent agenda, I don't think you approved it.
Yeah, we did. We did it without fiscal 5.4 first. We approved that, and then we did fiscal 5.4 on its own.
I was the first motion.
And Erica was second.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I missed that, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Not like you, Carmen.
Okay, which one are you doing first? It's okay. I don't have to wait. When you're ready, you can just show them on the screen. That way everybody can see them. I'll go in order that they're on the yes. Okay, our first donation is the Office of Special Education has received donations the amount of $550 to be utilized to pay for partial summer camp funding for students with significant handicapping conditions. This is through the Barbara Katzenstein Scholarship Fund. The second one is the Hendrick Hudson High School is the recipient of the following donation for specific graduation awards. The Margaret McCordy Scholarship, $801. That's for the high school graduating class of 2024. And the next one is New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital Center has made a donation of $5,000 for educational programs for students. Wonderful. Yes.
Check for that context.
Oh, sure.
Just some context, we talked about the special education donations for the camps last time. The Margaret McCory Memorial Scholarship is to which you will be accepting. That is an award that is given annually to a student who has expressed an interest in pursuing this career of the helping professions. That would include nursing, medicine, social work, and other occupations devoted to assisting those in need. A student must be accepted into a 2 or 4 year college with nursing, medical, or social service major, and and this generous donation will help one of our worthy seniors to have that. And then we have a relationship with New York Presbyterian Hospital. We serve on their advisory board. They are an organization that they focus on giving back to the communities that they serve, and we're very grateful for that $5,000 to support general education fund, not just general ed, but educational programs in general across the district.
Can I have a motion to approve the donations? Motion approved. Second. All in favor? Okay. Yeah, thank you, $200 for sure. And that is taking us right up to our superintendent's report. Mr. Campbell?
Thank you. So it's been a while since we met, but I'll keep my remarks brief. This week we are celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week, and I want to thank all of our educators who live out and live up to our district mission of ensuring that our students are engaged, passionate, active learners who achieve their maximum potential and contribute to society. As I'm getting to know members of our faculty, it's clear that that mission is not just a statement of words to them, it is a theory of action. It reflects our shared values. I've seen our teachers engage students in the classroom, reach out with compassion to students who need support, and give of their time to ensure that our educational community is welcoming and inviting. So for those reasons and many, many more this week, I give my sincere and utmost thanks and respect to our teaching efforts here. Today happens also within Teacher Appreciation Week, also happens to be National Student Nurses Day. So please join me in extending a message of heartfelt appreciation and recognition to our incredible school nurses. Their dedication to ensuring the health and well-being of our students is truly commendable and invaluable, whether it's providing comfort to a sick child, administering medications, or supporting our students in making healthy choices. We know our school nurses play a vital role in making a safe and nurturing environment for our community. So thank you to our school nurses. I do want to make a note. We have had over the past couple of board meetings, have had translation services available upon request through a technology-based solution. We have been partnering with a vendor whose product is down right now. So the need to actively engage with that vendor to make sure we can get that back up and ready as quick as possible. And Greg, do we have, are we able to switch over to the capital bond video, or can we go to our website?
Not right now.
Do you want me to come back to that?
Yes.
Okay, we will tap dance. A reminder that UPK registration is ongoing. We are still in the process of accepting registrants, so please navigate to our website, click on the departments tab, then registration tab, and you can sign up and register your child. If you do need assistance in Spanish, including help with your documents, we do have a partnership with the Hendrick Hudson Free Library, and they can assist. They have hours Mondays from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., Tuesday from 4:30 to 6 p.m., and they can assist with that if you need translation services and even help assistance uploading the documents. We're still in one of the best times of year, kindergarten registration. We did have kindergarten screening, but we still will be accepting the littlest sailors to our ranks. So please navigate to our website and click on the departments tab and the registration tab. I have a child who will be entering kindergarten next year and in my home district, and already a Facebook group started up. The class of 2037, I believe it is, and they're already trying to do socials beforehand. I don't know if I'm a bad father because I don't have a t-shirt for it. We do have our Future Business Leaders of America, or FBLA. That group will be holding their Fill a Bus food drive on May 11th, so this Saturday in the high school, right outside the high school from 10 a.m. to noon. Please help our local food banks by donating non-expired food goods. They do a contactless transfer, so if you just pack the items in your trunk, you pull up, and members of that student organization will unpack. So thank you in advance if you choose to donate. Thank you to our FBLA club for that community service. How are we, Greg? It's all right. I've got more. It's totally comfortable with that. Today, believe it or not, I wanted to provide you with an update of my entry plan. Today is actually my 200th day in the district. And as I shared with you, as I came into the district, I had a substantial entry plan to really get to know the community. And I want to speak on that for a second. So I've spent a considerable amount of time and effort to implementing that plan. I've attempted to follow a roadmap where I listen, gather insights on current issues, address any immediate issue that I can, and build capacity with our stakeholders, and I have a fantastic team of cabinet members and support staff who have allowed me to do that. I promised you that my first year would not be a year of me coming in and saying, this is what we need to change, this is what we need to change. I always say, I applied and sought out to become a member of this community. I didn't do that because I wanted to come in and change it, because I wanted to be a part of it and what it had to offer. I promise to you that I will listen, learn, help, and then lead. I've listened to a great deal of perspectives. I've learned a great amount about our educational community. And in light of current conversations that are occurring, I'm going to break my promise to you. I want to offer some advice, and that's out of those listen, learn, help, and lead. That almost is it's giving advice in my first year. And I want to give this to advice based upon what I'm hearing, I'm seeing, and I'm living. This is a wonderful community that cares deeply about their schools and the education that those systems provide. The passion that this community has for the betterment of their children and for the general well-being of their children is inspiring. At times, though, passion can sometimes manifest in many ways. It can unite and it can divide. Education changed in 2020. Schools across the nation face this. We had a global pandemic that brought anxiety to many people's lives because there was the unknown. Many schools became the center of where people released that anxiety. They wanted to control something. We were in our house. We didn't know when we would be out again. We didn't know if our families would be safe. Those districts lucky enough to have school resume, it was the same. We felt bad that our children were going through that and we wanted better for them. And oftentimes schools bore the brunt of communities' anxieties. Every move of the school district, and I lived this, I was an administrator in that time. Every small move was met with concern. There was greater attention on it, and out of passion and a wanting of better for our children, every decision was paid a greater detail of attention. Coming from another community, I saw that when schools resumed and got into quote unquote normal routines, that anxiety level seemed to dissipate. We knew our children were being taken care of. We knew we were back in our normal routines, and life settled down. Most communities saw that level of anxiety decrease. I've come to learn, and as I've talked to people, as I've listened, as I've learned, I've come to learn that that was not necessarily the case here. As the community grappled with grade banding, with uncertainties of changes to the school structure, and then with the possibility of changing that again, that has been discussed and debated since the March of 2023. Many in this community are still having conversations, passionate conversations that matter, that have value and should be heard. And the net result is that we as a district have not had the opportunity to heal for many years, and we need to. Anxiety has been too high for too long. And if you know anything about what long-term anxiety and stress can do to an individual, just think about what it can do to a community. And so I did break my rules, and then tonight I'm not just listening, learning, helping, and then leading. I wanted to share some perspective of what I've learned. I implore everyone in this room and the 23 people watching at home, or Erica, what number are we actually at?
It's 12 watch.
12 people watching at home, including my son, and everyone in our community. And I say this just in broad terms. I would ask that each of us take a moment to reflect on one action or one thing we can do in our role as a member of this community, no matter how small it may be, to try to begin to heal this community. Our children are looking at us to tell them it's going to be okay. And we as educators know how resilient children are, and you as parents know they are. I look forward to our continued work together. I thank you for this time to update you on my entry plan. And I look forward to our continued work together for our students. And at this time, there are no outstanding follow-up responses to community questions. And I'm supposed to tell my kids, as always, to go to bed. Don't be up when I come home, as much as I love. That's my update at this time. If we do have a moment, we were going to update people on the capital bond. I will just say this, there is a fantastic video. If you go to, it's 4 minutes and 50 seconds in length. If you go to our homepage and you go under the board, you go to the budget page, there's a capital bond tab. I can put it in my weekly, it will be in my weekly update, which I know everybody is waiting for with bated breath and reads with every word. So that will be in my newsletter this week. It's a short 4 minute, 50-second video. If you want to know what the bond that we are proposing will entail, it will ask you, it's kind of interesting, but it's asking you, you have to click to say, if you want to leave your contact information, you don't have to, you can skip that part. We're not trying to data mine, I promise. I do just want to talk about that, some notes of the philosophy for entering into a capital bond. Why do school districts do this? Why don't we just save money in a savings account? Why don't we just have bake sales? Why don't we just use our regular operating money? The philosophy behind capital bonds is that this program exists for school districts to proactively budget for and implement phased capital improvements over time. These projects are permitted by the New York State Education Department. They participate in the hey, here's the video. We want to watch the video?
Yes.
I'm gonna finish my philosophy though. They're permitted by the New York State Education Department. They participate in competitively bid construction marketplace, and school districts receive New York State building aid when you enter into a capital bond project, and as long as you do your job and close it out appropriately. Permitting aging infrastructure to fall may lead to emergency repairs. That's keeping the head above the water. Those emergency repairs are typically not competitively bid. They do not earn New York State building aid, and they are disruptive to the school day because it's unplanned and we need to get it done. I was part of a district that a roof fell in during the school year. They were in the middle of a capital bond project. That was not part of the project. And luckily they had a partner in town where they could send the children to finish out their school year.
Buchanan.
These projects also, the emergency repairs often come at an extreme cost premium. So that's a philosophy that when you enter into a capital bond project, there's some benefits to it, not just being able to do the work. There's aid, it's planned, you can coordinate, it still stinks because there's dust, there's noise, there's relocation, think about remodeling your own house. But at least you do have some benefits that are not afforded in emergency repair. And so Greg and Benita have done a fantastic job troubleshooting, and I'll turn it over to the expert video voiceover.
A good deal of time has passed since the school buildings in the Hendrick Hudson School District were built. In 2 years, the high school will celebrate its centenary, and our youngest building, Buchanan Verblank Elementary, is over 50. Like an older home, there comes a time when older school buildings need significant repairs. In the spring of 2022, the district completed a building condition survey, required by New York State, to determine the necessary upgrades to maintain a safe and secure learning environment for our students and staff, and to prepare students for a rapidly changing world in the 21st century. Almost $90 million worth of work was identified. Over the past 2 years, the School District Facilities Committee has met to analyze these needs and prioritize work that will have the greatest impact on our students. These projects, totaling $30 million, involve work in each school building and will impact how students learn, as well as site repairs and updates to infrastructure that has reached the end of its useful life, all while keeping the community use of our buildings in mind. While our annual budget always includes expenditures on routine maintenance, the operating budget cannot cover the cost of major upgrades to our schools, and we are now proposing a bond referendum to fund this work. About half this investment will be at Blue Mountain Middle School, which has not seen the updates that other buildings have received in past capital projects. Here, the library will move to the Commons. This transformation will blend the best of traditional libraries, such as a rich collection of books, with the new technology that a modern media center brings. The net result will be a world-class library media center in the heart of the school for all students to enjoy. Outside, the drainage issues and the turf grass at West Field will be addressed, and the field refurbished to afford greater use by athletes, physical education programs, and the community. The middle school will also see updates to its STEAM Maker Studio, an improved commons cafeteria area with energy-saving lighting, air conditioning where it is most needed, new gym bleachers, and a new kitchen servery. Updates to bathrooms and a partial roof replacement are also proposed. The high school will receive $8.5 million in investments with the transformation of the library into a modern learning commons, suitable for today's learning styles. The high school dome will be updated and equipped with flexible seating and a sound system to accommodate large assemblies such as graduation ceremonies. Third floor space will be modernized for multi-purpose use, and the basement band and orchestra rooms will be refurbished. The 3 elementary schools will each see a new or renovated STEAM lab, tailored for 21st century learning. Upgrades to student bathrooms and repairs as needed on the school grounds and to the building envelope. At Furnace Woods Elementary, a renovation to the cafetorium is proposed, similar to that at Buchanan Verplanck Elementary, with lighting and stage curtain, as well as air conditioning. Projects at all schools include work on the building envelope and outside pavement and walkway repairs to ensure safety for our students, staff, and visitors. Making these repairs and improvements now will continue to protect the investment that the Hen Hud community has already made in its schools over the years, while ensuring that our students are in a safe and comfortable environment that is conducive to learning. Studies tell us that good quality schools make for stable home prices. These projects have been carefully selected to maximize opportunities for state aid, and we expect to receive $8.6 million from New York State for this work. The district is monitoring its use of fund balance and aims to make this proposition tax neutral. More details about the proposed projects and FAQs can be found on the district website, henhudschools.org. This proposition will appear as Proposition 2 on your ballot, Proposition 1 being the school district budget. Voting will take place on May 21st, 2024 at the same time as the annual school budget vote at Frank G. Lindsay Elementary School from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Contact the district clerk for information about voter registration and absentee ballots. Remember to vote on May 21st.
Thank you to our partners at TNW for their assistance in producing and creating that video, as well as many members within this room who provided feedback and input as to how to best communicate our hopes and parameters of the project. That concludes my update.
I have one question. Is there any way that we can make the video so that we don't have to log in or give a name?
I will follow BOCES on that.
Okay. Because it's still on a commenting phase, so when you open the video on here, it's allowing for comments. So you probably want to just get that downloaded and posted to YouTube maybe?
Yes, we do have it
Yeah,
on our capital projects page, and
yeah, but you have to put in the name, but we can download it. It's a big file, but we can download it.
but I'll make sure.
Any other questions for Mr. Trombley?
That's a long
Yes,
sheet, so.
sorry, I said it was gonna be short.
Okay, that's good. Good question?
Okay, the next section of our agenda is for presentation and discussion on measuring student success. And I'm handing it back over.
Thank you. All right, so as Greg pulls up the presentation, as you can see, I took my jacket off with the topic of this title and some of the content that's in there because it's sometimes it gets to be a lively discussion. This is the time of year that school districts look towards the summer, look towards some pretty exciting events such as commencement, moving up ceremonies. It's also when school districts tend to reflect upon how well they did and what they may need to do to improve. And it's also time when the school districts receive outside perspectives on how they do it. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about measuring student success. And before we do that, we always start with our mission. I know we've said it a couple times tonight, but oh boy, Greg, pull that picture down.
Make it bigger.
I had the guy focus on the kids. Greg, if we can go to the mission slide. I know we all know this, but that is why we're here. This is what we are charged to do. This is what we propose a budget for. This is what everybody comes to work for in the school district. We attempt to cohese around to make sure that we are supporting students and becoming engaged, passionate learners to achieve their maximum potential and contribute to our society. The next slide is the objectives of this presentation, in case you're watching at home and wondering what we're talking about. We want to explore topics related to student growth and continue to discuss what the Hendrick Hudson School District values with respect specifically to student outcomes. Before we get started in my presentation, I am a teacher at heart, so we'll go back to a brief activity. I'd ask all those of you at home and those of you in the audience and those at the board table to take a moment, think to yourself, to identify what you value with respect to your child's education. What do you value? Next slide, please, baby. As you finish that thought, I'd like you to think about what a quote successful, end quote, graduate of Hendrick Hudson High School look like. When you're done thinking about that, if you could talk to those around you briefly about those two topics. Questions? This would be really cool if we had more people in the stands.
Citizen, yes. I like a good citizen.
Just for those who may be watching, this is a Board of Education work session, which is oftentimes the board of work and study.
Yeah. I think what I'm thinking of was like, successful, and I don't mean successful financially, but it can be
Take about 27 seconds to finish up the conversation you're having.
We're setting we don't know.
Okay. Anybody care to share?
We will.
For those of you who may not have heard that, we have a competition at the board table. Whose is going to be better?
So, I think that basically we agreed that, or both sort of agreed that we wanted to make sure that our kids were set up for success. So that they understood, you know, post-grad or after graduation, what, you know, where they could go, what they were good at, what their strengths are. And at school, developing relationships and mentors, confidence in themselves, to reach their potential.
And it's that, making sure that the students have a clear vision as to what they want and that we're offering the support and the mentorship to provide them for them.
I said that they should have the basic skills that they're entitled to when they graduate. They should be able to do math. They should be able to read at grade level and write. And then Tamika said about social emotional learning, and I was like, I'm piggybacking on her, because the anxiety that kids have since COVID, it's not just kids, it's also the stress level that educators have. And I'm gonna add to your social emotional learning, how to disagree. Kids don't know how to do conflict resolution. The way that they treat each other, we've seen it. Like, so, and I think honestly, us as adults, we model that behavior for them.
That goes right into my theme of my superintendent's update.
But she was beneath the head, like, oh, the C's.
Tell us about the C's, Benita. Come on.
Come on, her citizens.
I was saying I'm cheating because we did this work before and we spent a lot of time talking about the 6 C's, like compassion, citizenship, critical thinking. You know, all of those things are really, you know, important for the whole child. So it wasn't almost me, it was just, we spent a lot of time talking about what a graduate should look like in a previous district, so feeling.
So Alexis and I talked about being socially, emotionally, mentally prepared, and have the tools to go on whatever path they choose and know how to achieve that path. And I have that every child should have an appropriate level of work, and be challenged appropriately in whatever their coursework is.
Yeah, everyone has at a different level. You're right, everyone's entitled to be checked and inspired.
So I've asked the board president if we can suspend our policy on community input and if anybody from the audience would like to come up, feel free to come to the podium and share. You don't have to.
Totally no pressure.
It's not the price of admission.
I like the appropriate level.
Okay, thank you for engaging with that. If we go to the next slide, just further framing the conversation we're gonna have. Are those values that we just discussed codified anywhere? And I hated having to put this up ahead of time on board docs because I know I'm leading in, I'm giving away, or just go to this by slide. It's supposed to tell a story, but if you already looked at this, you're gonna see where I'm going. So if you struggled with if our values are codified anywhere, we do have an established vision, talked about our mission, and we do have a strategic plan that the community spent time, talent, and treasure to put forth and to have conversations and to make sure that everybody knew what we expect our schools to do in support of our students. And if we go to the next slide, those are the 4 pillars of our strategic plan. Student engagement, clear and targeted communications, real world experiences, and shared decision. And each one of those four pillars has action items associated in there that the district is striving towards. If we talk about current measures of success on the next slide, I have a question mark there. Because I want us to, this is a work session, a study session. I want us to think about, if we think about what we value, what we do when we codify those, and then do we look at these as measures of success? So I'll give you a story here while you're looking at those. I think I shared part of this in a previous district. I won't share where it is, but if you stalk me, you can find the video of it. It was my first board meeting at a district, and I was asked a couple questions. Are we a good district? And why did our rankings go down? I started updating my resume in my head to see how I would respond. And I said, I can't tell you if you're a good district because I don't know what you value yet. Because what we value, we should measure. Sometimes it's hard to measure what we value. But I would say that that is the definition of a good school district, air quotes around good. It should measure what we value because that's what we feel is successful, is good about the school district. So at that same time, I shared with them, I said, I don't believe you value standardized test scores. I used a data point. I said that particular district had a 56% opt-out into 3 through 8 assessments. Wow. So you don't value those assessments. So I'm not going to use those as a measure to say if you're a good school district. So I luckily lived another day and we started a committee to talk about the profile of a graduate, profile of a rising 9th grader, profile of a rising 8th grader, or 6th grader, to talk about what we value. But all those things before you are current measurements that we use, and school districts are often cited to say, oh, they're a good school district. But I want us in this work session to think about what we truly value and how we can measure. Yes.
So what I see here on this is a lot of things that we can quantify. I don't see a whole child. I'm just opening up today. We had 2 examples of other things that to me are measures of success. Last month we had a play. To me, that would be a measure of success. We had the music that just won, they just won the awards, they just went on a trip. I don't see any of that here, and a lot of times I feel like as a district, when we talk about success, it's always these numbers. And I don't hear sports, like I don't hear a lot of our success measured in other areas outside of these numbers, and we're not looking at the whole child.
I was thinking, I didn't see student engagement here. And I would think that would probably go into everything that you just said. What are our students doing when they're not in class? And are they in school doing other activities that keep them, growing, learning, engaged?
So as I've lived out my entry plan, I'll hear people say, we used to be a good district. We're a good district now. Why aren't we a good district? And I sort of moved past that because we as a district have to quantify what will make us that way. Additionally, are these things that we should ignore? They serve very good purposes. In that same district, they had an opt-out rate of 56%, which we wanted to address because of a number of reasons. The standardized test provided one measure of the students that we could use to see, to continue to improve as a system. The state also has a compliance component to it, where that might be tied to funding for participation rate in standardized assessment. So we had to do some work to encourage people on the value of that assessment. And so we talked about that it does provide us as educators with one data point to help understand the whole child. I underlined the bottom one because in addition to the fun, fantastic times that occurred events that occurred this year, such as commencements, moving up, sports ceremonies, the US News and World Report rankings often come out. And those are often met with great joy and great fear. Because people say, well, we're a better district now, or we're a worse district now. And I want to spend some time on those rankings to help us understand what they mean and to see the value to it. So, Greg, if we go to the next slide. US News and World Reports, they have world's best colleges, world's best in university, or nation's best doctors, nation's best high schools. It was established in 2007. Their methodology of how they identify the best has changed over time. I will let you know, as a business rule for this year's data, the 2024 rankings use the 2021 and 2021 school, 2022 school year data.
Oh, yeah.
So think about that.
So.
A communication to a school, to a community, that their district this year is a rank that uses data that is lagging by 3 years. Only individual schools that are ranked in the top 75% according to their methodologies are reported. All others are left off the list completely. In Hendrick Hudson High School in 2024, our ranking is 212. I had hoped to have time this week to be able to give you a historical overview. I did not get that data, but I can definitely provide it. But this year we are ranked 212. Does anybody know what that number means? Okay, we're going to tell you. So this is their ranking methodology. They use 6 factors. And I want to go back to my original question. How do we measure what we value? As I try to remember, I'm a history teacher, so I'm getting into quantitative and qualitative logarithms and data and cybermetrics. Yeah. So we need to bring Rachel back. Yes, as you said, she probably should have stayed for this presentation. Rachel, if you're out there to help me, please come back. So I'll go back to my original question. What do we value? So the US News and World Report uses 6 categories to help build that ranking. I want you to see if there's a theme here. They use absolute performance. This is ELA, math, and science assessments designed to not only to reward high schools for the number of students at the proficiency level. So this would be when we say proficiency level at the high school in New York State, that's a 3 or a 4 on the regions. But also to assign more weights.
No, that's 4 or 5, I believe.
I'm sorry, 4 or 5. I apologize. Yeah, I'm thinking. A 3, 4, or 5 on the regions. Basically 85%. Now, I'm sorry. 85% on the regions or above. There's no 3, 4, 5. Now remember, we're using the 2021-2022 school data. In January of 2021, June of 2021, August of 2021, and January of 2022. What do we know about that? They're optional regents for regents exams. So I want you to keep that in mind. So another metric is relative performance. This measures how high schools performed on state reading and mathematics assessments, so our regents, relative to the performance that would be expected of underserved populations. I'm going to repeat that because it took me a couple times to read it. It measures how high schools performed on state, our English and math regents, and how it related to the performance of what would be expected to given the proportion of underserved subgroups. This relationship simply indicates that for most high schools, the challenge of educating underserved students has not yet been overcome. So in the analysis, the relationship between school poverty and school average achievement was negative in all states that U.S. News and World Report, U.S. News and World reports on. The third metric that is used is the equity gap. All states have performance gaps between historically underserved populations and non-underserved groups. In order to reward schools with below average performance gaps, the best high school rankings include an equity gap indicator, which measures the degree to which the school's external performance gap, the difference between the performance of a school's underserved groups and the state's non-underserved groups, would be well below average for that state. Now, I'm going to go to 3 more indicators. Look at if you see a theme of what they use to build, what measures they use to quantify. So on the next slide, 10% of the ranking comes from the graduation rate. And this is average freshman graduation rate. So this would go back to the 9th grade cohort that came in 2018 and 2019, and the percentage of those that graduated on time. So within the 4 years. They use a college readiness index, which is their highest, one of their highest weighted components of it. It's the number of 12th graders who took one AP by the end of 11th grade, divided by the total number of 12th graders in the school that year. You combine with the calculation of the number of 12th graders who passed that AP with a 3 or a 4. The next is the college. You guys didn't know you were getting involved with this. The college curriculum breadth index. This is, if you want to be really cool and share with your friends, the CCBI. It is calculated among the school's 2021, 2022 12th graders for the percentage who took an AP and the percentage who earned qualified scores on multiple AP exams. The AP content areas it only selected select APs though. They were computer science, the science categories, world language, English, math, cultures, history, and social science and arts. And then we don't participate in IB, so that doesn't count. Do you see a theme in those 6 factors? This is a board work session.
Right.
Yeah.
I also feel like so to me, a great school district would drive growth in students.
Tell me more.
None of this really measures your growth.
As an example, if I'm in 9th grade and I take an AP exam, or let's say 10th grade, I take an AP exam, I scored 2 on that. If I take the grade again, or I take the test again in another grade, I get 5, have I grown? At least by that measure of achievement on that test? The rankings would not calculate that because my score was already calculated in the previous year for taking that exam. Does not reflect that. Now, if we go to the next slide, I'm not saying we discount this completely. Right? That's what we always do. We give you a statement and then we make another statement. I know what these rankings do. I'm not naive. They are one measure that we could look to. They are one data point. I also know by sitting at a school district, another school district, at a round table and listening to a community budget forum and saying those rankings can help me sell my house. I get it. Because not every community takes the time to do this, right? But go ahead.
I'm just cautious of discounting test scores completely, because I feel like we're sending a message to parents, why bother sitting for the exam? Why not just opt
I
out?
wouldn't say to discredit them completely, but I would say maybe not the only.
No, not the only thing, and I do like your growth scores, because if I'm on the campus portal right now, a lot of parents don't know you can go into documents and pull out, your 4th grade ELA scores and compare them with your 5th grade ELA scores, and you can see right away.
You can't compare the 2 tests.
They're just the scores.
Just the scores.
You can't compare, they're different tests.
Okay, so as a parent, I think this.
What you can do is look for growth in the scale score of your student year over year. but the two tests are not comparable. They're not even comparable to the year before, correct? The
And
same test.
So some parents don't even know that this exists in backpack underneath documents. But here's the other thing. We say it's one measure, and it absolutely is. But then to qualify for academic intervention services, we test. And students don't get into those services based on a test score. And before we say that it's only a test score, if you don't have a certain test score, you don't receive services. So I do think that it's not just one measure, but I also think that we're sending mixed messages when we say that, you know, they don't really count.
So I want to touch base on that. I fully, as an educator, support the value of test scores to help be one data point, and I encourage participation. And as an official of the state of New York, I'm not allowed to encourage opt-out, right? So I'm just saying that. And we as a school district cannot. I want to bring it back to the theme of, I know that these rankings can bring anxiety.
Yes,
There's some things when we don't understand, we have anxiety. And I want, this is sort of my sharing of I want my sharing of one way the community can heal. These rankings matter, but please do not get upset about them. We look at them, they're all part of our whole system as leaders of a school system. I look at it like this. I often use a doctor's visit to talk about, truth be told, I haven't had an annual physical since probably 2007. So I'm sorry for using this. So think about seeing your doctor for their annual physical. Most doctors do not only run one test when providing a diagnosis on overall health. I am fundamentally opposed to having to fast, take a cholesterol test for 12 hours, right? So furthermore, doctors don't just rely on those test results. They rely on multiple factors when coming up with your overall health. But that cholesterol test, some doctors think is still valuable, right? I want us to also remind ourselves of the multiple measures of data. And if we go to the next slide, I know everybody will hear Brad Geis in their ear saying this is the most copied document in the history of his organization. For those of you who may be joining the show late, we engaged in work with Dr. Bradley Geis to talk about how to use data from multiple data sets to inform what we do as an educational system. So yes, those rankings have come out. Those rankings show us that we are 212. We definitely, just as we use them for specific purposes. But I want everybody to know it's going to be okay. We will strive to improve our school system overall through some, Greg, if we can go back to the 4 pillars of the strategic plan. I believe that if we focus on these areas, particularly when we look at the theme of well-rounded learners, that when we take care of those action items, when we have engaged students, when we provide them with real-world experiences, the tests will take care of themselves. I know I'm being idealistic today. But we've been talking about budget for a lot. That's a lot of tangent. So I turn it over to the board for general Q&A on this topic.
So I have a homework assignment for you. How many, we have that, please.
Yes.
How many of our students enroll in the AP class, but then don't sit for the test?
More than you think.
That's why I'm asking. I know it's more than I think. And I don't think that helps us either.
No.
Because those kids should be prepared to take that exam and they're not. That's a question I'd like to get the answer to that. I'd also love our timeline on when we're gonna build a profile of a graduate.
Yeah.
We need to do that.
Should be a goal.
It is, it's part of the strategic plan. It really is. I know that. It's just something that we have to get to. How do the SAT scores play into this? For reading and, for ELA and math?
Rankings?
Yeah, and this cohort of students, I don't think even took them, really.
No, they were also, this was the first year back from COVID, like, right, it's one-on-one.
I know, but high school is different. Like, my son was expected to hit the ground running. There was no pause. There was no pause. We literally got them into school. We were like, oh, perform. This is it. You're doing exactly what you did last year. No, you missed 3 months of Italian or 3 months of geometry.
They did do the SAT, that one, but the Regents was optional.
Yeah, it was
Like
Only
if you,
only certain regions were actually offered.
yeah, that
And
they
they
were
were-
eligible was like if if the teacher recommended that you successfully completed the course, you did not have, you could sit for it, but it was not a requirement to receive credit for that course.
Trustee Mills, so I can clarify the question. What role the SAT and ACT assessments play in the rankings? I don't believe they play any in this rankings, but we.
I just wanted to make, I think it's important for the public to clarify that part of this. And then how many of our students enroll in the class, then don't take the test. And then I think a statistic that we should know, and I don't know if it plays no, but I think would have been good to have tonight, is we have students in these, in regions and APs and honor classes, high school, some at the middle school as well. And we know that we have a lot of absenteeism. This year we changed methods where we don't have sign and release anymore at the high school level. We have substitute teachers in the road. And we're paying a significant amount of money for that because we think student being in front of a person that can actually at least make sure that they're doing their work is important and they're not roaming around the buildings and getting themselves into trouble is important. It's something that's where we want to talk, that's when we value. We decided last year, that's something that we valued. We got numbers tonight about absences at the high school this year. So far, we've had 722 absences requiring a substitute teacher at a cost of $210,991. And now that's all fine and good, and that number is good, but I guess what the question is how much instructional time are students losing? So it's not, I mean, the money piece is important. I think the instructional piece is even more important in evaluating and discussing our outcomes. So if we have a ton of loss of instruction in the classroom, how is that correlating into our student test scores? And their proficiency, right? Because a test is one measure, like we're saying, test is one measure. Kid can have a bad day, but at the end of the day, especially like math and reading, we know build language, they build off one another. So if you're not successful and you had a lot of loss of instruction, and you're not proficient, it doesn't matter what you got in the test, you're going to the next level. And are you able to do that? And I would like a number on lost instruction for our students, I think is what I'm saying.
So you're looking for hours?
Loss of instruction, and then we almost need to do this in a way where it's loss of instruction tied to, is there a trend?
So our kids who are less proficient have more loss of instruction,
Yes.
whether it be their own seat time or teacher seat time.
Yes,
So,
both ways, it goes both ways, because if a teacher is absent and a kid is absent, then they're double missing instruction.
so my team's gonna help the social studies teacher figure this out. What I believe we could do is we have to obviously go to a test, right? We could go to the 3 through 8 math and ELA, identify a 2 or below on the 3 through 8 assessments, and a 65 or below on the Regents exams. Use that as sort of the baseline, and identify classes that were impacted by absences. So it'd be by roster, so we'll regroup, but that's just our thinking out loud.
Yeah, thinking out loud, because if there's a way that we can come up with to help. If we think there's a problem, we identify an issue, how can we then fix that problem and help understand it so that it could be fixed.
I think a big part of the other thing that we should be looking at too is just the curriculum. And so this year we rolled out the pilots in the elementary school. And a part of just that shared decision making was all the teachers giving their input as which one they felt was best for us to move forward with. That's a huge component, right? Because we're starting in the beginning with these kids, and then we're gonna see that translate through as they continue to go through the district. So I think our pillars actually working the way it's supposed to work, right? Because we're getting that engagement from teachers and students, and we're making real decisions that's actually gonna help further them as they go along.
I think the thing that I think we're missing
I think the thing we're missing, I think there's two components we're missing. I think we're missing the K-2 component. So I think as they enter, where do they enter and where do they exit at 3 or at 2? Because we wanna make sure we're measuring the reading growth, the math growth, right? We also wanna talk about how did their emotional state impact them? Because I think that's huge. Tamika and I, if anybody else was there, Tamika and I were on a video call today, really talking about it, and it was just amazing watching what this gentleman did and how kindergartners can answer these questions. So I think if we start thinking about that as the whole, then we're talking about the whole child, not just academics. And that data we could probably pull from our mental health.
The question that somebody would pose to children and their responses, sorry, I'm trying to understand.
I know I think we probably have to give an explanation of it.
Sorry.
So we have the SEL task force.
Yep.
And today we've been meeting several times in the last 2 months with different companies about an SEL screener that would help us identify kids, red flag kids. These are the kids we didn't know about, right? So maybe a kid wrote a note, but as we give a screener, there's red flags everywhere. And one of the screeners we looked at today was the Venus 2. And the gentleman that did it, I mean, he was amazing. He was very vocal, he was long-winded and fabulous. And I think all of us were like really impressed with it at the end. And I've been sending out videos every time we've watched one of the presentations. And the stuff that he was showing that was coming from like kindergartners and third graders, you're like, oh Lord. I will send you the video as soon as. You said, you don't have the video today. We have one the other day that was.
Okay.
But today's was fabulous. And if, I believe I don't know if I gave it to Mike or I put it in my weekly, was USA Weekly, Educational Weekly, had an article about Socrates and how they identified 7 students prior to them committing suicide. And they used this screener. I actually reached out to the principal or the assistant principal at Socrates. No, Skinny Atlas.
Yes.
And I said, can you help me? What do you think? And she's like, oh my gosh, call me anytime. So we were chatting, we talked, and she shared with me how this happened. And one of them happened to be one of her children. So it's pretty impressive. So we saw it today. I should have the video from Achilles by the end of the week. And I will share it out with you guys. And if it's not this weekly, it'll be next week.
So it is, I guess, it is some sort of interface that you have with each child.
Not only that, teachers do it, parents do it, and students grades 5 and up do it.
Yeah.
But they're now working on doing a younger grade so the kids can actually answer the questions. And it will read it to them. It has 7 different languages. It's fabulous. And the reports that we get as a school district is fabulous. I keep saying fabulous. It really gives us a lot of data,
Yeah,
but this is all through that Recover grant.
it was very informative and it was quite detailed. I mean, it provided so much information that we can then use in the district, just like she
And you
said.
as families are gonna be able to see this too.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna give your child a screener and all of a sudden we have all these anxiety red flags coming up. And all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, I had no idea my child was this anxious. It's gonna help us with school avoidance. It's gonna help us with kids going to class, putting their heads down, sleeping. Right? So there's a lot that we can take from this.
Engagement.
Yep.
I just wanted to piggyback and put it on the board's radar. Student engagement and test scores, something, I don't know if it's a problem here. Teachers' unions have come out and spoken against it, but it's this. It's the kids on this. I haven't seen anything from the HHCA on this, but for me as a secondary teacher, this impacts student engagement and it impacts test scores. And if you look at districts that have created policies around this, their test scores have gone up. I mean, I'm just gonna say in my district, we had a problem with our Wi-Fi, so the kids couldn't have cellular. The kids were actually speaking to each other at lunch. We had less behavioral problems. Kids were paying attention in class. And by Friday, I didn't feel so worn down by trying to entertain kids and be more entertaining than this. So, I mean, I don't know if it's a big problem here. I really think that, we should look at that.
So we are in policy, this has been a discussion. We just don't feel like that it should be our job to write that policy and we need more input from our staff and our principals before we propose that. And that's kind of where we left it off our last meeting. So it's probably gonna get kicked back to share this site base. It's gonna get, I mean, this is all like to me said, the processes are working. Unfortunately, when you have processes, sometimes it takes a little longer, but I think that's really important. It is working. It is a problem. I mean, I have a high school student and it was a problem. But the middle school does have a building level policy in place. It's a procedure, that they follow in the middle school, and their phones are supposed to be locked up in their lockers all day.
So the middle school doesn't have any problem with it.
They shouldn't, because the students are supposed to be following the procedure, and then the principals, unfortunately, if the kids are not following the procedures and the rules, then that means the principals and the staff are dealing with it. The high school has a different, last year, if you remember, we put those cases in every single classroom. Every single classroom has.
I have a case.
Every single classroom.
But there's no policy by the school.
They don't need
board.
it, yeah, but so the teachers here, if it's up to them, can ask the student to put them in. I know there's teachers here, my kid does not have that, her phone goes in that thing every single class.
Just so you know, from a standpoint of someone who's in front of the classroom and trying to teach, you can't be more entertaining than this. I mean, I know sometimes I think I am, but I'm not. And just so you know what kind of stress, if we were all here speaking and I was speaking to you and you're on your phone, it's so, I can't even tell you, and the attention span isn't there. The engagement isn't there. It has shortened the attention spans.
And if it's not just the cell phone, it's also the AirPods, so
Yes.
you're not necessarily looking at their cell phone, the
Or
AirPods,
the
and I
watch.
tell them.
How about the
How can you
watch?
listen to the music, which I get, like, I love to listen to music while I'm doing work, but when it's directly in your ear, you can't give 100% of attention to your teacher and to your music, something's gotta give there. And it's usually the instructor that they're not giving more attention to.
Like I said, there are unions that have come out against it. So and you can read countless articles on how it impacts test scores and student engagement. So if we want to have a no-cost solution to increase social emotional learning, help, peer interactions, where they're not walking around like cell phone zombies. It's a no-cost way to do it.
I mean, I don't really think that we have to. I don't really think I'm not saying that the union can or can't come against it, but we could build.
It just sends a
policy
message,
without-
but maybe.
Without,
No, but we wanted input as to.
where do
What
Maybe
they
it's
is
not
it
a
they want?
problem.
Where is
Do
the
they
problem?
use the
What,
phone?
what do they want? Because like if we say, you have to lock up your cell
In your
phone from the
locker.
beginning to
Right.
the end of the day, that might not be in the best interest of our students. So we wanted to get input from them, like, is it just in the classrooms that it's an issue? Is it in the hallways? Is it in the library? Like, I don't think we're in this building to know
right.
what it is.
Yeah,
So
I
we
don't
wanted
mind the
input
shared,
from-
I think the shared decision is, right, because some teachers may use phones.
Well, that's
for
one of
something in their class,
That's
right?
one of the conversations is, Stephanie's point, it's like you ban them completely, or is it red zones, yellow zones, green zones within the building, that the green zone's cafeteria.
And you wanna
Yeah,
know,
what
what?
is that?
And I don't wanna speak for the teachers here,
Yeah.
because you're saying the middle school doesn't have a problem.
I'm
Yeah.
not, wait, no,
They have a procedure.
But they
Hold
have
on, Steph.
they have a procedure.
Hold on, Steph, I never said that middle school didn't have a problem.
Okay, I'm sorry.
There are children in the building that are not following the rule, potentially, that is set in place. They are not supposed to have their cell phones on them all day. They're supposed to be in their
A
lockers.
couple of students, that wouldn't impact learning,
No, right.
so.
But at the same time, those students right now, how can a building find those students who are not following the rules? If there's a policy in place, then that gives the building, the principals and the teachers, hey, ownership on, this is a board policy, you're not allowed to have it. As opposed to, I don't have to listen to, you're just the teacher, or, it puts that ownership further up the line.
And that's another challenge. It's almost like you have to write
That's
a
not a
policy.
big thought,
You have to write the policy for the different levels.
right? That's not.
It's not a thought. That's not
I-
an
I-
okay
I-
thought,
I'm
but it's
not-
reality.
No,
But that's reality though, sometimes if,
You do need somebody, you need to be able to point to somebody else.
Yes,
Like,
and
yes.
if it's saying it's across the district, it's across, then it's consistent and
I agree. I still think that's a behavioral piece that could be addressed, and I agree with the policy, don't, or a
You come into a
review
school and
of
you
a
address that.
policy.
Um,
You come in,
You'd be
you-
addressing it all day long.
yeah.
all,
And so that's probably systemic, like, why is that
Well, then-
happening?
Well, think about it though.
Why is it happening?
Just think about it. When we started COVID, and it got so bad after COVID, this was just all the time, right? They were on their cell phones, they weren't there. So when you transition back, and the teachers don't, I'm not saying they don't know what to do, that's not what I'm saying. They're like, yeah, put your cell phone away, they don't listen. There's only so many times they're gonna say that. So instead of saying, if Mrs. Collins comes in and they see your cell phone, I'm gonna get in trouble, right? They're just kind of saying there is something in place that I have to follow, and they don't wanna ruin those relationships with kids.
Which is what
So
I
there's
think.
always that backup.
Policy,
The
maybe
shared
let us
decisions.
know.
Yeah, I mean, that's something like we said, we are exploring.
and how about this, when we came back from COVID, you said it in high school, it was as if COVID didn't happen. Started it like, you didn't live through a pandemic, kids, you're here to learn. And they just spent a year on their phones, glued to them. They're,
Adults are just as bad, think about it.
yeah, you put us in a boring staff meeting, sorry, people, but I'm sorry, Mike, I know you're engaging, but.
I never had my phone in my.
Yeah, but come on, I mean, I'm just saying that we need to teach them as well as ourselves on how to have more of an attention span into social.
And I know you're saying phones, but at the high school, we also have the BYOD.
Yep.
Bring your own
Policy.
device. So bring your own device. So that I do get teachers who call me and say, hey, they bring in their own device. I know they're not on there because I'm watching them through GoGuardian, they're somewhere else. And I would say you have the right to say, you know what, that's a privilege. Having the BYOD is a privilege. We have one-to-one. So take the device away if they are not following rules in the classroom and give them a device. I had a couple of classrooms that I have given up to 5 Chromebooks, extra Chromebooks in the classroom. If they don't follow the policy, take away the personal device and give them a Chromebook that's managed by the district. Because having BYOD is a privilege. So it's also like, making sure that are we following what we can do as far as classroom rules.
Yeah.
But see, this is exactly why we need to know, because that's something that should also be addressed in the policy. So this is why we do wanna bring it to
I agree.
all of our stakeholders that
Personal device, it's really a personal device.
personal device, yeah.
All right, see, this is exactly what.
Yeah, this is why we.
Thank you.
Rick, can we go back to the presentation?
Well, I just had one other thing I wanted to say too. I appreciate that you told us when this is from, because it is lacking. And since then, like certain things that I think maybe not everyone understands, like regions, we can see immediately after. You can see immediately how your students did, and you can readjust and go from there. State test, we don't see those results for months, and you don't see the entirety of the test. You see whatever they release, and you don't know necessarily how your students did on all aspects of that. I think, though, I'm going to say, knowing that we get those scores, I would believe wholeheartedly, seeing some of the things that we guys put in place, if you were just saying like, getting rid of like sign and release. I would assume that in 3 years from now, our numbers will probably be higher than this
Right.
number
That's
here.
what we're looking,
But
it's like a lag.
this is like alarming for people right now to see this, not understanding this is something from the past.
Right.
And that we have been doing, there's so many things, the new curriculum,
Yes.
doing all of these things, so everyone is doing the work. And I am hopelessly optimistic that this will be already better based upon the work we're doing right now when we get these scores in 3 years.
So Greg, if we could pull back up the last slide, please. No, to that point,
Can you give us the last 10 years of rankings?
yes.
I just wanted to piggyback on Amelia. I don't understand how sign in release policy would change these scores
Well, because if a student will be in a classroom
with a sub.
doing work, it doesn't matter. I don't know necessarily,
Stephanie,
there
they're
could be
required.
I can not be in my classroom and my students can still be learning. I don't need to be there for my students to learn, but if they are in a classroom and I have my systems in place and now they're in that same structure, they can still learn. I should not be their teacher only, I should be their facilitator and their guide. And if I set the right systems in place, and now we are setting systems in place, I don't think it's necessarily attendance, yes, that is gonna be a factor, but I get pulled for meetings, that doesn't mean that my children aren't learning,
It can't mean that.
Okay,
It shouldn't mean that. We have to give, this is something.
Margaret, all teachers have to leave sub-plans?
Yeah, in their contract.
So who checks that what they leave and that it's meaningful? So the principal goes around and checks. I mean, I agree completely with what you're saying. If you run a tight ship, that absolutely happens. If you're absent, you know, a couple days. But if you're chronically absent, then it starts to
Well, I think
slide.
that's why but I think that's why we're asking what we're asking for, right? We're trying to build. I think we're gonna know if we keep tracking the same data for a few years, we're gonna know whether or not this extra investment in substitute teachers was worth it or not.
I mean, because I thought we got rid of sign and release, because legally,
Yeah.
you couldn't leave kids walking around
Well, yeah,
unsupervised.
Oh, wait, no.
That's really why it went away.
Oh, no, wait, hold on, let's back up the train. That is true, but we have in the past put them all in the auditorium. We have in the past put them all in the cafeteria. We have in the past moved them to the library. They were doing a lot of shuffling around the high school, especially.
Okay.
Shuffling the kids. They weren't in a room together doing their work.
They weren't in a classroom.
They weren't in a class.
They were in the library, they were in the cafeteria, they were in the auditorium.
when I feel if you're in your normal habitat, right? Then they don't need that teacher they don't need me there every single day for the learning to happen, because you put the system, like I said, you put the systems in place and
Then I must be a bad teacher, because when I come back and I have half my class not complete the plans that I left, and all the questions in my little Quizlet.
you gotta put a little stuff, I don't believe that.
I don't think it makes you a bad teacher.
I'm just saying, it's frustrating, because even when I say that who checks that they have sub-plans, you
So I-
can the
But
most.
I don't think she's saying, I think what Amelia is trying to say, I don't think the intent is for that to be like a chronic or long-term, it's like if you're out for a meeting, or if you are out sick, it's not like if you're out for 2 weeks, like that, I don't think that
We've had issues with that.
that is necessary.
But that's not what we're doing.
Okay,
Mike, when you do the AP, when we look at the absences, it doesn't, do not AP classes require X amount of seat time hours?
That is a conversation that we have had lately.
Okay, so what happens, because
What is the limitation of that?
so we had that, and listen,
I told you when we met the other day for our subcommittee, I was surprised by a few teachers in a meeting a few weeks ago that mentioned that there were several kids who had like 40 days or more, and I was like, how would that be possible? Like, what are we doing about that?
so I'm gonna play devil advocate here. Because as a teacher, before I had children, actually even when I had a child, before COVID, when a kid was out all the time, I was like, "Oh, those parents must be awful. They can't get the kid to school. And then it happened to me. School avoidance is real. And when people, you know, it's funny because my colleagues who don't have that, especially the ones with no kids, when they're talking the same way that I think that sometimes if you don't live it, we can make policies about something. That's the only thing I'm scared of. Because sometimes we make policies on paper, and if you don't live those policies, you don't realize the unintended consequences that they have. So when we do school avoidance and we're talking about attendance policies, please be aware that if you have a child that has it, I mean, it's real, and sometimes you throw up your hands and you can try everything, and you don't know why they don't want to go to school.
I think that you're having. I think you're having a very good conversation right now, and I think that lends itself to our training that we're doing in 2 weeks. We're doing an in-depth 3-day training for all K to 12 MTSS teams, who will then turnkey it to their buildings. Because we're missing that huge component. When you sit in an MTSS team, And I had a teacher come to me, well, we don't really deal with attendance. I'm sorry, what? No, attendance isn't part of MTSS. I said, well, what's the root cause of not coming to school? Is it a behavior? Is it school avoidance? Is it I'm working 95 hours at my job and I come and I sleep, or I don't come at all? So we have to stop, put a pause on all of this and say, we need the right training because we don't have it. So we've set up a 3-day training that'll happen here, May 21, 22, and 23. It's an outside vendor. It's free to the district. They trained me about 25 years ago, so I hope it still is good. But it is something that everybody's gonna have all the tools. And they then need to take it back to their building. So the building principals are coming, social workers, school counselors, and teachers. So that's a huge piece that we are missing. And we will have a K-12 process that identifies all of that, along with the SEL stuff. We really, in a couple of years, shouldn't be seeing this stuff. So I'll call you in 3 years and you can tell me how great everything went.
So this is the thing. I'm gonna try to put this together. I'm very tired today, so I'm gonna try to put this together as best I can. In the last, a little over a year, we have, I would say when the strategic plan started, let's just go back to when the strategic plan started. And we all know what we went through to get that final product. We identified what we had to work on immediately, the low hanging fruit. We also spoke to, we had to sit down with the teachers union and the other unions, to see what can the district do to help you? We learned that there's two or three committees in their contract that weren't being honored. We were supposed to have them, we didn't have them. We put them back in place. One of them is PD, the other one is curriculum. We established the SEL task force. The SEL task force is supposed to identify this. So this is all working as a shared decision-making process. Because everyone has input, right?
Yes.
We've had more, we're working toward having more surveys. Just like when we hired Mike, we were able to send a survey to the whole community asking for input, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of things we've been doing. And I think that all this, like Amelia said, all this work we've all been doing now is going to have positive results in the end. It's just all that takes time. But the curriculum committee was interesting because what we've done off that is actually made offshoots. And it's all tied into this. There's offshoot subcommittees in our areas that need work. MTSS, differentiation, grading and homework, DEI, AI, I'm missing one. There's 5, okay, so. And our principals and our executive team are working with the staff really closely on it, and we have parents involved too. So that they're gonna make recommendations that we can also put forward. I mean, I sat in the curriculum meeting the other day. I haven't sent my notes because I was waiting for you to update. You may have already to send the notes to everyone.
Yes.
But I mean, I learned a ton in that meeting. We also learned we're always adding, we're trying to always add things for students. Psych 101, we have the seal of civic readiness. We're trying to get this going, and I learned about the capstone that we're trying to implement. There's so much stuff going on that I think everyone's sort of overwhelmed by it. I mean, I know that I am in my mind, so I know how hard they're all working on this. But in the end, what is the result gonna be? And I think that what all the things that I just said is how we're going to figure out, what does our graduate look like? What do we value? And honestly, like building a relationship with our staff, right? Mike's getting to know all of them. The more he can get out into the building to get to know them, work with the principals. We know we gave them lofty goals this year, right? We established lofty goals. You know, what does that all look like? And I think with all of that put together, I think in 2 or 3 years, we're gonna see results from all the work. So I was very long-winded.
That's my.
Back to the presentation. As any good social studies teacher should, I did not pull all this together, as you could probably tell, but just if we go to the next slide, Greg. Well, before I go to that final, the source slide. A little bit of a tangential. If we have something such as this, that we know the purpose of it, we know that it provides information, but it's perhaps not something that we value. I would argue we probably should not celebrate that. Right? I don't value a cholesterol test. So when I get it back and it is 700, I don't worry. When it's 500, I don't celebrate. So I don't, actually. So I don't celebrate that. I just use it to guide how many pieces of bacon I'll have on Saturday. So I'm joking around about this, but I say this, that we don't necessarily value test scores as the true measure. Then let's not celebrate it if we have just that good, as an example. We could sit here and say, we're 212 now. Next year, we're 109. And we hang the banner, we spend the $50 and we get out the banner and we promote it. I would argue that we probably should not do that.
But I guess then we should identify what we do value, so we can make sure that we trend them and celebrate them.
Correct.
Right, so if it's engagement or whatever, attending, whatever it is, right?
Correct. And listen, it's good to say, look, we have another metric that shows our talented staff is working super hard, and this metric changed, but we don't live or die by that. So that's just a recommendation. I do want to thank Dr. Kevin Wellner, who is he's a professor at the University of Colorado Boulder, and he is also the chair of the National Education Policy Center. He's done a lot of work looking at the methodology of these U.S. News and World Reports, among his other things. I did have a video conversation with him about 4 years ago. I reconnected with him, and he has said that he would be willing, if the board wanted to dive into the rankings anymore, that he would be happy to come in and even talk to our community. I didn't know how this conversation was going to go. I don't know if we need to reach out to him, but that is good. So thank you all for the discussion and for your attention.
Thanks very much. And I gave you more.
Yes.
I'm gonna give you another good.
Okay, I will repeat back.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's to the, and I think it goes to this, how are we supporting our students that are not proficient, that are not necessarily AIS students or a student that you bring to MTSS, they're in between. I think that it would be nice to have a discussion or come back to that. Like what are the parents understand? The parents understand, but also like what are the teachers doing? We have interventions in the classroom. What else are they doing? And I guess what I'm really saying is we have Regents exams, we have AP exams. Some teachers give extra help, some teachers don't. What does that look like and what's our plan? Because when kids feel supported, they tend to do better. So anyway, that's my relationship. And I don't know what we do, so I'm asking.
It's that whole.
I also,
It's so.
if I'm a parent sitting at home, what am I using to see how well my child is doing? Because I'm not using grades, because some of those grades are inflated, and I'm gonna say that, there's articles about it, we know it. I'm a teacher, I'm gonna say. So, as a parent, is there anything on Infinite Campus that I can go into that backpack? And I wanna judge, and I wanna actually see how my child is doing. Because I think that there's a lot of people at home that you read with your child and you're like, why are they not reading? Why are they reading like that? Or they go to write and they can't spell something, or you can't read what they're writing. And you're like, okay, something's off here. But it doesn't correlate to the report card, and sometimes it doesn't correlate to the report card because you're at home helping way too much, right?
Could be.
Could be.
Some kids don't like to work. I had one, didn't want to work with mom.
I have.
Anybody but.
I have.
I would suggest, yes, we can look at what are some reports or tools that we can use to communicate. I would urge any parent who is feeling such that way to call the teacher.
Sure, yeah.
But just look at, so I'm an educator, but I'm not an elementary educator. And you two just corrected me when I said I looked at the ELA score for 4th grade and 5th grade, and there's no growth, and you're like, you can't look at that.
You can look.
But you corrected me on what I could look
You
at,
could
right?
look at scale scores,
Scale
and the
score.
state's always been very clear about that, to their credit. That don't look at the 4 and the 3. Everybody looks at the performance
No, I was
level,
looking at
says
the
how many kids.
543.
But I'm talking districts. The reality is, the truth is in the scale score. So if your student had a 400 on the 4th grade test,
and a 490 on the fifth grade test, you could say that there's growth there. But you can't compare the tests.
I was looking at
On
that
their
score
own.
that, but I think that that's something that we can add, because it's available to them.
So, in other words, business rules.
We used to do cohort tracking and that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And isn't that something they cover like in the, like a parent-teacher conference, like when you meet with the teachers, you kind of go over all that stuff?
At the elementary school level, it's done very well.
Yeah,
Once
I've
you get
never
to the
had any-
secondary level, I just think, I don't know, do you,
Yeah, I think-
we have secondary, we have
You have to
middle school.
remember, at secondary, your kids are seeing good, I mean, most of the time good, but they're seeing, instead of seeing one teacher all day, they're seeing 8, and then one
We don't
teacher is
even discuss
seeing.
the state test
Okay,
So
that's why I
it-
asked.
in eighth grade. That by eighth grade,
Conversation.
that's, there's so much stuff, yeah, cause it's, there's not a lot of time, like where now, like, there's so much that the parents, when they come in by that point, they're trying to get through. We don't do necessarily state test scores, or any of those, like, I'll provide, like, we use benchmark assessments, I'll provide those numbers and show the growth from like, my fall to my winter by that point, but I don't necessarily, and also not for nothing, but a lot of times we don't even have the data for our state test scores until like this year they were embargoed for so
You
long.
probably would get it right before
You're
August.
still.
I never spoke, I, at
Yeah,
my
it was like
elementary,
around
I
November.
never spoke about test scores,
My middle school teams, when I was a principal,
unless there was an issue.
they reviewed pre-benchmark, pre-assessments, mid-assessments, and the final assessments on what units they were working on. So it was showing the growth of your child's understanding. So it wasn't even about a test. It was about what we're working on in class, and here's where the gaps are.
The middle school team is very, very good at conferences to talk about how your child is growing, what areas. But I think there's so much to talk about that they don't get to that. And I will tell you, I've walked parents through Infinite Campus, clicking on the backpack, clicking on documents, and that's where they can get scores from.
Well, another issue too is like when they come to me, let's say for eighth grade, the state test score I'm gonna see for that student will be seventh grade, and that content is nowhere, none of those standards for math specifically, none of those standards are in my eighth grade curriculum, so I can't speak on what they did or did not do the year before. So a lot of times it's difficult to have that conversation because that was with a previous instructor.
Yeah, if you remember last June, or whenever we did the presentation, we were in an auditorium, was it?
We
first?
were,
Yeah.
or down here. We were
Okay,
on the
and we
stage.
showed the already scores, and someone asked, how is it they did so well in June and look where they are in September? iReady adjusts, and in the next year, those kids are measured by the end of the year expectations for the new
The
grade they're in.
course, yeah.
So not a lot of kids are going to have high flying scores when they take the test the first 2 weeks of school because they haven't yet learned that curriculum. It's an end of year assessment. Those are the standards they're measured against in that particular assessment. And the state tests, and this is interesting because we have a lot of teachers who misunderstand this. The 3 through 8 tests, the state sends out a memo like as soon as they embargo the scores and they tell you, here are the scale score cutoffs for AIS consideration. It's not a performance number. So for argument's sake, the state will say for ELA in grade 4, the scale score cutoff for AIS consideration is 262. Your job, school district, and they say it in the memo, is to now go look at your local data and compare it to this performance and say, did Margaret have a bad day and that's why her scale score was so low? Or is this indicative of a history of struggle and oops, maybe this kid should be reassessed for AIS? There are many people in this district, teachers, who think that if a kid gets a 2, they're automatically in AIS. That is not true. There are many kids who get a 2, who had a headache, had a fight with their brother, didn't have good breakfast that morning. Or they're not test takers. How many of us have those children at home? Great scores, but when they sit before, to take a test, it's like everything goes blank.
Remember, according to New York State, 2 is on grade standard.
On track to rank. So it's very frustrating because a score is indicative of me in one moment of time. And literally, you know, we have kids who, I have many kids as a teacher. I would see those scores come back and say, this is not who this kid is.
We do it all the time. So that's why it's always a good idea to look at longitudinal
Yes.
data, because year after year, looking at a student profile.
And different multiple
And it's
measures.
there. It has
Absolutely
campus.
multiple measures. And attendance
We do
and
upload
FPL.
the, rated pair reports as well.
The other thing we miss all the time, and attendance and SEL is right there. The question is why? Why am I not here? Why am I failing? Why am I not doing homework? We have to be able to ask that question and find the answer. If we even think we can begin to help the kids solve the problem.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. That wrapped up? Okay, we have to get to policies. Thank you for the discussion. I don't have to write. Yeah, we have, let's see, the first is we're retiring policy 0 to 100, school district goals and objectives.
I will read the policy, start reading the policy. Section 0 to 100, school district goals and objectives. The Hendrick Hudson Board of Education seeks excellent and all endeavor for each student. I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of policy 0200.
I think you just have to wait the meeting.
So then I'll go. Come on, Alexis.
Second, all in favor? All right, so we're retiring this one.
No, now I'd like to make a motion to approve the retirement of policy 0200.
Wait,
We
hold on,
should talk, oh, but Mark, you should talk about why we're retiring it first.
Sure.
And we have to say, then we're gonna, you also have to say that we're gonna not do a second reading.
Yes, we're waiving the second reading. So during this physical audit that we're doing, this is one of the recommended policies that they're recommending to eliminate. They're claiming it's obsolete, and that your district goals and objectives should be embedded in all these other items. And it's in our strategic plan, it's on our website. I mean, it's in everything we're doing. So it is embedded. So this says you don't need this policy.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the second reading of policy 0200.
Second. All in favor?
I'd like to make a motion to retire policy 0200.
Second. All in favor? Okay, all right, the next one is a first reading of policy 1240-R, visitor to the school regulation.
This is the first reading of the visitors to school regulation. And so section 1200, community involvement, title visitor to school regulation, 1240R. The Board of Education has authorized visiting days for those who wish to avail themselves of the privilege. These visiting days are subject to approval by the principal, who will aid in making proper arrangements.
Yeah, let's read it. I think we should read this.
Okay, any other visitor to the building should immediately check in at the principal's office to state their matter of business, or they will be asked to leave the school grounds. All visitors are encouraged to make appointments before arrival at a school facility. Upon arrival, staff will utilize a visitor management registration system to confirm identification and appointment before granting entrance to the building. The staff shall call the respective office parties to announce visitors' arrival. If a visitor does not have an appointment, the school administration will be contacted for guidance. All visitors must show a valid photo identification to be granted access to a school facility.
I'd like to waive the remaining reading of this policy.
Second.
Sorry, I wanted you to read up to at least that point so that people know the expectations of what they should bring to a building and how they should arrive. The rest just kind of talks about then after what you're wearing to identify yourself.
So we did not have a written regulation.
We had changed the policy and this is the, like now the regs that go with it.
So with this new municipal policy, before we didn't have regulations, so we kind of be in line with what it is, but we're starting from the beginning. And
gonna include regulations, this round of policies for event. Putting forward.
Any questions? Alright, so this will come back at the next meeting. And, we're in touch with NISBA, we should be getting the next round policies within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then we'll start, you guys will see, the public will see us doing a whole bunch at a time again. So just we're trying to get through, we're getting a whole chunk of them at a time that we're reviewing as a policy committee. And then bringing them forward in a order that makes sense. In that meantime, there's other things that have come up, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're simultaneously attacking other things, including the cell phone conversation so that takes time on top of all the things that we're getting back from this phone.
Yes, so, and I actually had mentioned, we wrote a policy recently, about writing policy, and approving policy. And, one of the last paragraphs there, NISBA's recommendation was for us to give ourselves a timeline or like a process. So I didn't want to do this. I want everyone to just be like, oh my God, Erica, you and this policy stuff, but I think we actually need to bring it back and actually identify. So the more I've been reading policy, many school districts each year assign year 1, 0001 section, 002, then the next year, 003, 004. So I think we need to bring that policy back and actually make a timeline, so future boards don't fall into the situation that we're in right now, where the policy hasn't been reviewed in many, many years. So how many years? Many.
It depends, some sooner than others, but I feel like for one was the not cell phone, but electronic devices. And it was like referencing devices that are not relevant anymore. I mean, that does change, maybe a little bit more technology changes, but that was like early, mid-2000s, like early, like, it was before 2010, I wanna say, and like, when you think about technology then, it's not remotely the same as it is now. And also back then, it was like banning it completely, and now we want to encourage certain technology in the room, so.
But we also have a lot of state law and regulations that have been put forward that are not actually reflected in our policy. And I think we've caught up to some of those, but then we just got another round of 6 more last week. So we're very busy. And Margaret handed me the curriculum pile the other day. And the one on the top has not been updated since it was put in place in 2008. Just to give you an idea.
There's some that will go back to 2000.
Just to give you an idea. Wow. So, I think I don't want to see another board go down the road of not having a timeline of when to review. So we're gonna I think we're gonna bring it back and do that. So anyway, that's good. So that's policy committee. Now we're at committee reports. Facilities, we had a great update tonight. Oh wait, is there more for policy?
No, I was gonna say, by the way, this is Jen's last time to report out on facilities. It was kind of a bittersweet moment in our facilities meeting.
You had your last facilities meeting?
We're gonna try to have another one, just because.
After.
No, she's sad about it.
I am sad, I love facilities.
Jen, I'm gonna miss your expertise.
Right?
Anthony
It's
probably
gonna be-
wrote.
No, I will.
I haven't got those.
Go ahead, okay, take it away. So Mike went over most of it. So everyone has received the mailers, they look really great, Fiona did an awesome job. So we have mailers that have went out to everybody, every homeowner. Every address, about the proposed, the levy. And we also discussed, I think the question came up about when this work would actually happen. So some work will be able to start in the summer of 2025. And then more major projects will probably happen in the summer of 2026 and the summer of 2027. But I think first thing that we would do after bond is accepted is hire a construction manager. And we'll probably work with them, facilities and the architect, to actually put the plan together of what projects would be done best together. So we could figure out ideally, how the schools could be prepared and how kids would have transition spaces. Then the other update was EPC. The good news is it looks like that work will start this summer. Again, that's really a focus on lighting. And we did talk about, I remember, I know a lot of people are really interested in the athletic field lights, so they were gonna put that and see, hopefully we can get that in, some of that in the fall, as a bonus, that people would enjoy. And then Anthony shared with us his summer project, so really roofing, he was gonna do some roofing repairs, flooring upgrades, mostly at BB, painting repairs, drainage and paving. And really, this is all throughout the school, like every school in the district will have some sort of repair. He did share with us that the flooring, even in the BB, the hallway flooring is gonna get repaired, actually. It was replaced, but it is separating, and so the vendor is actually replacing it at cost, so it's no cost to us. And his goal is to have the remaining classrooms, with vinyl versus carpeting, for the start of school next year. So that is his goal, and that's what he's reaching for. And so I think that was, I think Mike went over just the importance of the bond, so the more we could tell our neighbors, especially people who don't come to board meetings, that we do us, that we share.
Okay, so safety, we met a couple of weeks ago. I think the next one is, coming up later this month. Big thing for safety we talked about was the district-wide safety plan. So that gets done every year. That is soon to be finalized. And then it goes online for 30 days for the public to be able to look at it, and make comments. Then it comes to the board for board approval. And then it should be in place for September 1st. That district-wide safety plan lets you know the overarching safety things, but it doesn't get to the nitty-gritty as to like if the school is evacuated, where they would go to, for safety reasons. We also talked about the cell phone tower that is proposed. There was two, but right now there's one that they are still waiting on Con Ed, and that's the one that's on by Montrose Station Road over there. That everything is set. It's now a waiting game on Con Ed, so they don't know exactly what the holdup is, but they're hoping, Becker was going to continue pressing Con Ed and everyone so that we can get that in place, because we did talk about that being a safety issue for cell service during emergencies on that side of town. And we did talk about this side of town as well, by BB, but unfortunately, that's not part of our control as to where they're placing these, but we can continue to advocate for that. And then the other thing we talked about was, high school students parking, making sure that they're parking in, zones that they're allowed to, whether it's on campus in their assigned spots. If anyone doesn't have a spot, I believe there's still spots available at district office. And just to be mindful when you're parking on streets, that you're not blocking road with pathways, because that poses to be a safety issue, when people can't see or don't know you're coming out from there. So just to be mindful of the, parking around the campus.
I was just thinking the high school send it out.
So the high school was at the safety committee, they said there, so the way you earn based on privileges, parking spots at the high school is based on earning those privileges, and the majority of students are at the DO who do that. And Nick, Mr. Katsaris said that they are in constant communication with students about safety, reminding them of safety, reminding them of traffic flows.
Any other committees?
I just wanna, this, our PTA committee, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the PTAs that we're doing. I mean, I'm the PTA liaison for the high school, so I don't know as much about what's going on in the middle school and the elementary school. But the high school is gonna have a spring fling. This is the first of its kind since I can ever remember a spring dance. May 23rd. And tickets will be on sale that week in school. It's actually a Thursday night to kick off their Memorial Day weekend. The PTA is working with the school to do that. This year, we brought back our flocking fundraiser for the high school, but we actually decided to open up to all students in the district. So anyone can buy a flock.
What is
A flamingo.
It's a flamingo. I saw
Flamingo flock for their students.
Get one for your kind.
You can buy 10 I think it's 10:15 or. Yes, they're real flamingos. Yeah. That's good. No, they're those.
Are they
they're
blue?
pink. They're pink. We don't have blue, we tried getting. You can help us. You can help us block. That's what you do. Last night, it was very funny last night. So we did our first round last night. But we decided to open up to the whole school, so I should, kids only.
How did I miss this?
I don't know, but that's why I'm sharing it. And
How do you buy it? How do I buy it? I want to buy it.
there's a link on the Hendrick Hudson High School PTSA page on Facebook and Instagram, there's a link.
I know,
I
like you
send
do
the-
Facebook or Instagram, so what if I don't do Facebook or Instagram?
I don't
Maybe
know.
on the school.
Maybe you should put your. Yeah, I think the elemental school, middle school, there is a link.
Yeah.
Someone should text through the link. Did you text?
I do that, but when you get a text from Facebook, if you're not on it.
No, I think there's a link to the, like, to the.
But either way,
to,
the
like, the
middle
ordering.
school and the elementary school should send that out.
Yeah, we can share, I mean, they can share it.
Who doesn't wanna get blocked?
That's.
I know, who doesn't wanna get blocked? So, this was a fun thing, when we did this during, the high school did this during COVID in 2000, and it was a huge hit, a huge success, but we limited it to only high school students, so we wanted to expand.
That's fun.
And I wanted to give a shout out to the PTAs, they work, you know, we appreciate our teachers, that's the whole point of what I'm about to say. If it wasn't for the PTAs, they would not be honored anywhere near as much as they are. The PTAs made sure that that our teachers know how much they are loved. They did a lot of work this week to make sure of that, I think, all of them, so I wanted to say thank you to our teachers, but thank you to our PTAs for helping facilitate that. It's really important work, and I know it means a lot to them, and that's a shout out to all the PTAs. And the early release day, May 20th, we forgot to mention that.
May what?
May 20th,
early release, on the PTA trends for elementary, and I'm hoping I'm getting the date correct. They're looking to do a summer fest, like a thing on June 8th, I believe is the date. Okay, at FGL, and it will be just a festival. They said bouncy things, a lot of stuff is still in the works for that, and, yeah, that should be a big fun thing.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Oh, and it's music season also, don't forget everybody, for our band and all.
All right. Okay, any board comments or new business? I just want to, remind everybody that our next meeting is on May 21st, which is also the day of the budget vote. Oh, good to do this. I missed that.
It's under the new business.
All right, well, I'll come back to that. Okay. I don't know, like it Westchester Putnam School Board Association, we have to vote on the administrative budget and election.
Yeah.
Can somebody remind me how we have to do that structurally?
So there is a slate that the Westchester Putnam School Board provides you with, and that is, in the, yes. That is
In the attached.
in the attachment, and they
Oh, I have
are
it.
seeking, it's a yes, no vote on the proposal, so it's basically a proposition. For officers who are currently serving a one-year term, those continuing directors from representative districts across the region, new directors, and then, just people who will be elected to the nominating committee, and they give you the current directors for this year, as a reference. And local school boards are asked to either approve the proposal or to vote no on it.
So we need to vote, we have to make two votes, right, Carmen?
Yep.
So,
Budget and on the nomination.
right, so can I have a motion to vote on the WISBA budget? Second?
Motion, you just all said yes or no.
Oh, so just go around?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tamika said
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yes.
So that carried 6-0.
Just for the public certification, WSPA is a professional organization, for lack of better terms, for the board that provides both information, it provides advocacy, and outreach.
And a lot of training for us.
Yes.
Right, it's local to us, not like New York State, it's. And then, let's go around the table for the slate of 24-25 officers and members of board of directors.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so that's 6-0, votes yes. That's it. Okay, now I'd like to remind everybody that May 21st is our school board budget vote. You can vote at FGL between 7 AM and 9 PM. What? We just did.
Oh, okay.
The first
I thought
one
we
was
just did this,
budget.
okay.
Yeah. That's all right. All right, everybody, May 21st. May 21st is the day to vote on the budget, all of the propositions, the BOE candidates, so please come out FGL between 7 AM and 9 PM. That is also the date of our next board meeting. We will make sure, public board meeting, right, public board meeting, we will make sure that we wrap it up by 9 PM. Yeah, we'll read down the propositions.
So,
One is the budget.
One is the budget, two is the bond.
Just make sure to get it right.
So, we have been holding some, fantastic community forums for the budget. We held our fourth one today with, it was a virtual one. We had it in public meeting on Wednesday, and there have been a total of 4 attendees across all 4 of those, presentations, but those who have attended, we appreciate you getting to learn a little bit more. Our ballot propositions include Proposition 1, which is the school, budget, Proposition 2, which is the capital improvement bond, Proposition 3 is the creation of the Energy System Tax Stabilization Reserve Fund. Again, just a reminder on that, it is not in requesting to raise any new taxes. It is a request to create a reserve fund to move existing fund balance into to be in more compliance with state budgetary guidelines. Proposition 4 is the school bus vote, bond proposition to continue to replace our fleet, so they're safe for our students. Proposition 5 is the Hendrick Hudson Free Library budget, and Proposition 6 is the Board of Education member vote.
Excellent. All right, we have a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to vote.
All in favor?
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Oh.
that's right, girl.
I was going home. Okay, so the board did not complete executive session. We have to enter back into executive session for the same purpose. Can I have a motion to move into executive? Second, all in favor?